Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout. Today we have Glenn Topping. He is a ex-sheriff sergeant from Southern Florida. He's going to tell us all about his story, his long career, and we will dive straight into that. Now, before we get started, I always like to say, take one thing away from today. Just note down, remember one thing, and run with it and actually implement it into action. We have a lot of information out here. We all have doctorates in Google University, but we need to actually start implementing some of this action. And this is how we stop cops taking their own lives, cops burning out, and cops from really suffering hardcore from PTSD. So have a listen. I'm excited to have Glenn on the show today. This episode is sponsored by our motorcycle retreat we're running in May. It's coming up soon. There's only a few spots left, so make sure you reach out and have a look. You can also go to motorcyclemastermind.com and you will find more information there. So without further ado, Glenn, why don't you take it away? Tell us who you are, where you were policing, and a little bit about yourself.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you for having me on today. My name is Glenn Topping. I'm living in South Florida now, just outside of Fort Lauderdale. I'm retired sergeant from the sheriff's office down here in Broward County after 25 years. Prior to that, I was a sergeant with the military police in Germany for about 5 years. During my time with the sheriff's office, I started basically as a patrol supervisor. Once I made sergeant, went to being a field force supervisor, which was like the riot squad. I was a organized crime detective for a short time, working drug interdiction at the airport and the bus terminals. I was a hostage negotiator on SWAT for 13 years. Um, uh, Prior to that, in the military, like I said, it was military police. Prior to that, I was a bodyguard in the musical entertainment field. When all the rock stars came into town, we were assigned to them to escort them around, do the shows, take them wherever they wanted to go. And in 1989, I was on the TV show Cops. I was featured in the first season, several episodes, and I'm the author of and I'm the author of 5 books.
Oh wow, author of 5 books. Wow. Okay. So you've done a lot of really good stuff. Before we dive straight into it, I'm working on getting back in the habit of asking people what their definition of burnout is. Like, what would you define burnout as yourself, Glenn?
I think once you basically give up on life, you're tired of dealing with the daily grind of everything. It could be family, it could be job, it could be finance, it could be anything. And eventually it just gets to you don't know how to deal with it anymore. You don't want to deal with it anymore. You've had it up to here. Or on the job, you watch your guys coming in, how they dress, asking what's going on. You can see how their uniforms are horrible, or their weapons are dirty, or they show up late to work, or they don't show up at all, and you wonder what's going on. And you know that these guys are going through something. Most of the time, with his family issues or finance.
Yeah,
and that's how you saw it.
Yeah, no, I love that definition. It's so true. It does show up in different areas. So Glenn, you've done a lot of different stuff in policing. Where would you say, which area, which unit or place that you were at, would you say was the most draining or the hardest on you mentally wise?
I think it was the hostage negotiating. After 13 years of numerous call outs at all times of the day and night, dealing with people that want to kill themselves or kill their families or take hostages or numerous other types of ways to hurt yourself or others. Every situation was different. You had to do a little background on this, what you were there for, talk to other people that maybe know the situation, and work your way into that conversation and try to keep the guy talking until he either does one of several things. He gives up, or the SWAT team moves in and makes the entry and takes him down, or he commits suicide. But you don't know what the outcome's going to be. That's what the whole thing is. It's all of a sudden you have this anti-climax, like, okay, I'll come out, or bang, bang, it's over. You don't know. And after doing those so many times, it's like, oh, here we go again. Or you talk to an empty house for 2 or 3 hours, wondering what the hell's going on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've seen that one. Wrong house, wrong place, or the person's left already before you get there. Yeah, that's a little bit of humor for you. So with that, what about it would you say, like, if you were to nail it on the head, what was it that was the hardest for you about those negotiations? How long were you on the negotiation team again?
13 years.
13 years. Wow. So a decent stint on it.
Yes.
What would you say was the hardest part of that? Like, if you can narrow it down?
I think the hardest part was when you think you have the guy or the girl ready to give up and come out, and they take the other way out by killing themselves. Like you thought you did such a great job for hours and hours and hours on the phone, and they're you believe in what they're having to say, and you're letting everybody else know, hey, we got him. He's coming out in a few minutes. Be aware. And next thing you know, he doesn't.
Yeah, no, that'd be really hard. How'd you deal with that?
It's at first it was hard to deal with because you think here you are, you're this big shot negotiator. You're working things out. You're dealing with the SWAT team, and you're bringing them in on the situation as to what's going on. And then you're relating to the SWAT commander. Hey, we got him coming. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. He's agreeing. And next thing you know, it turns south really quick. And you wonder, like, what did I do wrong? Did I say something that maybe triggered him to do something to himself? A million things go through your mind in a matter of seconds,
Yeah,
and then you just have to deal with the aftermath, whether it's good or bad. So,
yeah, yeah. Did you deal with it in a good way most of the time or a bad way most of the time?
no, they're always good. I was never out to. It was funny. I never drank. I didn't
Yeah,
want to go and get drunk and go out with my buddies and go drink it out. I just talked it out with my partners on the scene, talked with their family of the victim, and then went home and just relaxed.
oh, that's good. That's real good. Did you talk to your significant other around any of it at all?
Yeah, sure. Because a lot of times my wife would call me up on the scene and go, "Where are you? What's going on?" I go, "Listen, I really can't talk much right now. I'm
Yeah.
in the middle of trying to help this guy not jump off this building. Let me call you back." Right. But at
Yeah,
the end, it would always be a discussion, as because my wife was very curious about to what was going on and very inquisitive. And I
yeah.
would talk to her about it and say, "Yeah, we were successful. This is what we did," or we were not successful because of the guy was hell bent on doing harm to himself.
So did you do that throughout your entire career or just like kind of mostly the negotiation side?
It was mainly during the negotiations. I mean, there were other times on scenes, on domestic scenes, where you talk to a guy or a woman or a husband or a wife during a call, and you just say a few kind words, and they said, "Okay, I'll go with you."
Yeah.
But it wasn't as intense as the negotiations were.
Yeah. Did you talk to your wife like your entire career? Like did you always was she inquisitive the whole entire career around stuff and
Oh yeah, yeah. She never wanted to. I normally didn't like to bring the job home,
yeah.
but so many crazy things happened during my career that I go, "You got to hear what happened tonight."
Yeah. Yeah.
If I had a video, I would show you, but we don't have video.
How do you think that that helped actually with having your spouse, your wife and that in on the like kind of on the conversation with you, a place where you could actually kind of talk about it and not go into massive detail so that she lived it with you, but more around just to be able to get it off your chest to somebody that you knew loved you.
Yes, I wanted to involve her in the calls because I wanted to know what I dealt with every day. It's not like you see on TV.
Mm,
Everything is sanitized and it's very happy and la la la. It's not like that, right? So I would
yeah.
bring her in on the certain calls and then probably my day. I would shall we get a call? They go, "How was your day?" I go, "Okay, how much time do you have?"
I
Right?
love that. I love that because there's so many people that ask how's your day and they don't actually expect you to like actually respond. And when you go, well, how long do you have? Because I'll tell you all about it if you really
Oh
want
yeah.
to
No,
know.
because I worked in a certain area of the county where it was very, very quiet with calls. Maybe in a 4-day work week, maybe we had 25 or 30 calls for service, and they were minor calls, nothing really, a couple of burglaries, a couple of bank robberies, maybe a couple of thefts. And then in my last 6 months before I retired, I got transferred to another part of the county, which was like little Afghanistan. And I was going for like 20 to 30 calls a day, and a lot of them were mostly violent.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. How'd you deal with that? How'd you deal with that shift?
I loved it. It was like we just went to a 12-hour day from a 10-hour day. So it seemed like it was like a 2-hour day. Everything was so fast.
Yeah.
You couldn't sit down and get to eat a meal because as soon as you sat down, your radio went off.
Yeah.
Shots fired. Beep beep. Okay, you got another shots fired. Beep beep. We got a stabbing. Beep beep.
So how long were you in that kind of high octane role?
My realistically, just my last 6 months.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I
Okay.
worked in other parts of the county where it was busy, but not that busy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I know there's so many people like I know around the US at the moment, with understaffing and that here in New
Yeah,
Zealand, same thing, crime rates on the rise everywhere
yeah,
around the world, it seems like. And so everybody's doing, I know here, like my friends that are still in and my clients that are in, they're like, we're doing like, 3, 4 hours of overtime every single day.
yeah,
We're going in job to job to job to job.
right.
How did you deal with that shift? I know it was exciting in that, but how did you deal with that shift, or what would your recommendations be to deal with that high octane thing, like where you're running on adrenaline consistently, you can't really eat? What would be your advice, or what was your experience with being able to, really help
Well,
yourself?
as the shift supervisor, I would go on almost all the calls myself, so I know how fast the pace everything was moving. But I'd always make sure that my guys would take a few minutes. Don't rush. You cleared this call. Okay, you don't have to get there in 2 seconds.
Yeah,
You're no good if you don't get there safe. You don't want to crash and get yourself killed, right? Take a
yeah,
break. Go get something to drink. Have a cold drink, or to sit somewhere away from everybody for 2 or 3 minutes. Not
yeah,
too long, but just to regroup.
yeah,
Because you can't your mind is you can't set your mind on going from one shooting to another shooting to a deputy shooting to a deputy killed to this.
yeah,
It just doesn't work. You'll talk about burnout. You'll be burned out in the first half hour of the shift.
yeah, yeah. Not, did you find any that yourself you burned out at any stage within your career? Did you find that you experienced that?
No, I didn't let myself get to that position
Mhm.
because I felt that after dealing with the hostage callouts most of the time and dealing with all that craziness and the sometimes the boss with the sheriff would come on the scene and go, if we got to end this, come on, I'm paying a lot of overtime. Come on, we got to get this thing done. And it's like the pressure on that side, or pressure on this side. And I go, listen, you just let me do what I need to do, sheriff. Okay, we'll get out of here soon, hopefully. But I always paced myself. Um, I never went into despair, like, oh, here we go again, another one of these calls. I don't want to. I never let myself get that way because I was always afraid because I've seen other people get that way,
Yeah.
and I promised myself never to get in that position, and I never did.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear, because there's so many people out there. Like, I can speak for myself. I said that I'd never get there and got there within like 18 months because I had a female partner of mine get assaulted and I didn't take it well.
Yeah.
And yeah, how did you? Because I know there's so many out there that start off with those great intentions. What would be your key, like, 1 to 3 things that you regularly did to make sure that you didn't get there?
Me personally,
Yeah, you personally.
um, well, I would go out. Maybe I go to a friend's house and watch a game, a football game, or it depends what time of year with a baseball game.
Yeah,
Uh, go to the movies. Take my wife to the movies. Um, just go. I like to bike ride. Get on the bike and go for a bike ride,
yeah,
and just bicycle around town. Um, and then just go home and watch TV and relax.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Cool. So
and watch
just
those
kind of really
stupid cop shows on TV.
take care of yourself. And I take it you with all of that, did you have an intention behind those of like really just like shutting off from work, or do you feel like you're still switched on when you're off work? I know that's a big struggle from a lot of people, is turning off when you're not
Yeah.
out.
No, when I was off, I was off. I mean, my radio was off. Back then we had pagers. We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah,
So, but I had to keep the pager on because I was on the SWAT team. Other than that, and of course it went off like every other day. Get another call out somewhere. But other than that, no, I didn't. The job stayed at the job. My home life was my home life.
I'm gonna ask you, it might be a challenging question. How'd you do it? How'd you keep work at work, and how did you keep home at home? Because I know there's one of the biggest common things that I see, especially in young cops, is that they get so like, yes, I'm excited about this job, and that's a great thing, but it's that they'll come in, they'll do overtime, they'll put their hand up for all the overtime, they'll come home, they'll talk about it, then they start to just hang out with cops, and then they keep spiraling
Yeah,
throughout the entire career, and they never end up actually keeping work at work and home at home,
right,
with still talking to their spouses and significant others like you did around that stuff, but then leaving it at that. It's like, cool, now this is
right.
done. How did you like disconnect the two the best that you could?
Well, first thing, it's funny you say that because the agency saw that happening. when the guys would work as much overtime as they could, or they would work off-duty details and never be home. So finally put a cap on everything. You can
Yeah,
only work so many hours a month on overtime, so many hours of detail a month, because they know what's going to happen.
yeah,
Exactly what you said. It's all one world. Your home life and the work world is all one world. There's no separating it. So finally the sheriff stepped in and goes, that's it. You can only do so many hours of this and this, unless
yeah.
it's in a big emergency or something like that's different. Other than that, you had to just do a few hours here and there and go home.
Yeah. How'd you disconnect that home life though? Like, how'd you like go, okay, work's at work? Like, I know like when we're running around on patrol, you're doing traffic, you run around off duty and it's like, oh, that person's doing that, that person's doing that. I still find myself doing it to this day. Did you,
I
did you
don't.
have, did you have that? Or like,
I probably,
what did you
I
do around?
probably a little bit. Yeah. I mean, you can't really. It's hard to after so many years. It's hard to really totally separate from it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want my work life to become my home life, the
Mhm.
two totally separate areas.
Yeah.
All right. I would get a phone call from a friend of mine. Hey, do you what happened to Dave tonight? No, what happened? Okay, that's nice. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
You put boundaries. You put boundaries. I love it. You're just like, nah, I'll talk to you about it tomorrow.
Yeah, because I don't want to, I just got off the 12-hour shift. What do I want to listen to another hour of somebody telling me what happened an hour earlier?
Yeah. You can't do anything
You know,
about it anyways.
right. Unless they get called in for something, that's a different story.
Yeah. Then you turn on. No,
Right.
I love that. What would be your advice that you would give to prevent burnout for, those young recruits coming through now and these days and age? And I know I remember being a new cop and listening to the cops go, oh, back in my day. And now I'm finding myself saying that because it
It
does.
was better back in the day.
Back in the day, everything evolves though, so things do change. So it is a different policing world now than when I
Oh,
was
oh yeah,
years ago, even, or when I was on the street
absolutely.
almost, 8 years ago. Uh, what would you say to those that are coming in now with, all the political influence that we're seeing, like even more than it used to be?
Yeah.
The so much the recruiting struggles that they're having. What would you say to two different types of people? The ones that are like, I'm not sure, I want to do this, but I'm not sure because of all the things that they're seeing and hearing about policing. But then two, those that have gotten in so that they don't end up burned out, so they can have the career like you did versus the career like I did.
Well, I think the first part of your question, uh, what was your question?
So the first part is, what would you say to those that are kind of on the fence about joining law
Oh, okay.
enforcement?
Yeah,
Because of what they see in that, they've always wanted to do
yeah,
it, but they're like, oh, I don't want to, the
right.
media seeing this and that, but
Yeah. I
say
have
that.
I put that question to the students I work with every day driving around, because they
Mm,
always say, what do you want to do? And they go, oh, I heard you were in law enforcement with all this. I want to be a cop too. I go, are you sure you really want to do that?
yeah,
Well, let me tell you, right? We got 2 hours in the car. Okay, we're going to talk.
yeah,
All right. Now, if that's something you really, really want to do, then you're going to do it.
yeah,
But it's not like you see on TV, right? You have to be willing to live that lifestyle for 15, 20, 30 years if that's what you want to do. You can't become a crooked cop. You don't
yeah,
want to sit in jail, right? You have to be willing to take orders from people you hate, right? Or somebody who's that's 10 years younger than you and telling you what to do.
yeah.
If you're willing to do all that, then have fun, right? And don't listen to the outside noise with the politics. It has nothing to do with you, right?
I love
Sometimes it's
that.
hard
I
not to,
love that last bit. Don't listen to the politics. It has nothing to
right.
do with you because it
Go to
doesn't.
work.
It is just
Yeah,
what
go
it
to
is.
work. Yeah, go to work, do your job, be professional, do what you were trained to do, and go home safe. Nothing else counts.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love the fact that you tell them the real part. I like
Oh yeah.
I help a lot of people join the police force, build their fitness and that. And I'm just like, I used to go to the recruiting seminars and that because the senior sergeant was like, she was my old sergeant before. And so she had me come along and talk with them. And that was the biggest thing. Like hers were good, but a lot of them, they don't tell them what the job's really going to be like.
No,
So
they
you
don't.
know what you're getting into.
Because I retired in 2009 after my 25 years.
You
And
retired
back,
when I first decided I wanted to join.
oh, you did?
2009,
Okay.
well, 2008, actually, September 2008, I was in LA with my wife. We were newly together. And I was with a friend. We were driving to my uncle's house for dinner and drove past after a passenger train, freight train had collided in LA. And
Oh,
18 people died that day. Um,
Wow.
and I saw it, and that just shifted my mind. I was like, and that was 2000. That was the end of 2008, 2009. I applied.
Wow.
2011, I got in.
Like I'm dating myself here.
But no, it shows that it doesn't matter what era you're in. It's all the
Yeah,
same discussions. It's all the same
it is.
things that are
Yeah,
happening. And so unless we change and we break the patterns by having
it's
these discussions, we're gonna be talking. I'm gonna be talking when I'm 60, 70. I'm gonna be talking to the guys that are just getting in about the same thing. Unless we break that pattern and we start preventing it, we start
yeah.
changing. Then the second part of that question that I wanted to know was, what would you say to those that have just got in so that they don't end up burning out, so they don't end
Well,
up destroying their job?
something would just to reiterate some of what I just said. Do your job, be professional about it, always fall back on your training. You're never going to be wrong if you do that. Once the handcuffs go on, the fight's over.
Mm.
Uh, and don't forget that if you have a family or if you don't have a family, you just have some friends, spend time with them away from the job. Don't eat, drink, and breathe this job because eventually you're going to feel it that you're going to wind up not going to wanting to go to work, not wanting to take care of yourself. You'll get sick. You'll start drinking. You'll start smoking, doing drugs. And next thing you know, you're not going to be on the job anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Perfect. I love it. That's some great advice. Uh, I'm curious, Glenn. I'm a huge why guy, and I believe we all have an internal why that drives us, that that starts when we're young, that drives us to where we want to go, and then we kind of what we do serves it. Glenn, what would you say is your why that put you through, like, 30 years of different types of law enforcement, 25
Yeah.
in the sheriff's department? What would you say your why, your driving why, or your mission statement is?
Well, at first, why? Because when I was younger, growing up, I was growing up in New York, and I used to talk to the cops on the block, the local NYPD guys. Uh, and then I talked to my father at the time. My father was a World War II vet. He was on in Pearl Harbor during the attack,
Oh, wow.
and so that's what made me in the beginning when I was younger to go into the military. So when I went to the military, I still said, well, maybe when I get older, a little older, I want to join the police department because I felt like at time it looked like it was on TV,
Yeah. That's
right?
why I
It's
joined.
exciting, a lot of chases and shootings and all that craziness, and it looked like a lot of fun,
Yeah.
right? So I figured, well, let me join the military. When I'm in the military, let me go into the military police. And I went to the military police academy, got certified as an MP, and then I got sent overseas to Germany. And I was there for about 4 years. I finally made sergeant, and I was patrol sergeant. But then I go, well, I'm going to be getting out soon. I said, maybe I want to get back into, go into civilian policing. But I didn't do that for many years. I was kind of on the edge, on the edge of the fence. Like, should I go or should I not go? I kind of had, I was trying to have second thoughts. But then as I got a little bit older, and I was getting a little bit too old at this point, I'm thinking, well, do I want to go in now and compete with the 20-year-olds now that I'm
Yeah.
almost 30? Like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I go, okay, this is what I want to do. And if I do it, I'm going to fall back on my military training
Yeah.
of the discipline and the protocols. And that's what really helped me get through it.
Yeah.
Not like today, I don't have to listen to you. Who are you? You're just my sergeant. You're nobody, blah, 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 right? No, it doesn't
Written
work
in
that
the
way.
chain of command when it comes to the law enforcement.
Right. Yeah. So I said, let me join it and, serve my community as I did. I served my country. Now it's time to serve my community. And that's what I did. And I enjoyed every minute. I've never hated one day.
That's amazing. I love hearing the stories, because I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of them are ones that have burned out within the job, and I love to hear the ones that, you know the handful that obviously that I've interviewed that are like, absolutely loved every day of it,
Yeah, I
would
loved
not
it.
change anything about it. So that's amazing, because we need more people. Law enforcement is necessary. If we don't
You
have
think?
law and order, we're both pretty screwed. And so
That's why I don't get these people that want to defund the police. I don't get it.
yeah, I'm like, put more money into the police, more money into
Right.
Frank. Like, you know where it's going, so it's not just being blown on,
Well,
a Ferrari for a police car, but
well, that's different.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But put it
Maybe
into
in Dubai.
yeah, increase the training. I know. Here's a question, actually. It just popped into my head, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Obviously, you brought 5 years of military policing experience into law enforcement, so you've got a good base of that kind of training, and then you came into law enforcement, and then you had the training there. And I've heard a lot, like when we've had these different things happen in the last few years, around the different stuff, and you've had military people pipe in and been like, I can't shoot unless shot at, and like all these different things that kind of come up, and it's just like, yeah. And so I love your perspective from both areas. I know it was probably a while ago you were in the military, police, but coming into that, remembering back to, and what would you say helped you within your policing career because of the military, and what could be learned by the police from military and vice versa?
Well, I think first of all, the military going through the military training, the basic training, then MP training, then advanced training, and learning that the protocols and the everything else that the military brings in. Switching that over to the civilian side, um, it my personal feeling is that if you want to join the civilian police department, you should be military prior,
Mm,
because you're bringing those that training and that atmosphere and those protocols with you, and you're right away you're on the road to success, instead of wondering like now I'm in civilian police. I just worked maybe at a local drugstore, and now I'm going into civilian policing. Never did anything with policing whatsoever. You know how to spell police, let alone anything else, right? And I think like, well, I'm gonna get. I don't really like this job. Really sucks. I can't do this. I can't work 10-hour days. That's crazy. 5 days a week. What are you insane, right? I don't listen to this guy. I don't listen to this guy. So I think my personal thing is, I think if you're, it's my own personal thing is that if you're going to join civilian policing, you should have a military background. It doesn't have to be military police, just a military background, because you bring a lot of that onto the job, and you carry it, and that carries through your civilian policing,
yeah.
right?
Yeah. No,
So
I would say there's a lot of really good benefits, from that. A lot of the guys that I know that are in the military, they are very, you have that, yeah, like you're saying, the protocols and that they bring to the job are always extremely good. The one thing that, because I'm trauma based, kind of work a lot with like people with trauma, and that, how do you how do you feel the best way for somebody coming from the military who's been overseas, maybe doing a few deployments in the Middle East lately, type thing, to deal with that trauma so that it doesn't then get projected onto civilian policing?
well, I think they probably weed you out if you're a combat guy, when you're getting hired on by the police department. You'll probably have to go through the psych exam to see the psychiatrist,
Yeah.
and through the whole hiring process, right? And then that's really up to them. Those guys that make that decision whether you should be a cop or not,
Yeah.
because everybody deals with stress differently. You're not going to be in a combat situation every day in your local neighborhood when you're used to
I hope
doing that
not.
every day overseas. Well, you hope not.
I hope
maybe
not. Depends on
maybe
if
my
it's
six,
downtown LA or not.
yeah, my last 6 months maybe, but not routinely, right? Listen, when I was a sergeant, part of my thing was sitting on the oral review boards, right? Looking at the new hires coming in. So that was the first step, was to sit with the review board, and there was three of us, and we would round robin these questions, one at a time.
Mm,
And we would have their guy's application in front of us, and we'd see that, oh, he's a vet, he's a combat vet, he's a veteran, blah blah blah. And then and you can see when, as he talks to you, it's yes sir, no sir, absolutely, very professional answers.
yeah.
Then you get the guy that's not, and it's this total opposite. Yeah, maybe, I think so. Or their shirt is opened up with a bunch of gold chains hanging down, or they put their feet up on the corner of the desk,
Oh God.
right? This is which is what we've had. So I
Jeez.
go, okay, after we give them all the questions, okay, thank you. Then we talk, he guy's out.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He put his feet on the table. He's definitely out.
Yeah. So you would see the difference of the guys coming in that are military as
Mm.
compared to the guys that are not. And that's why I think that you should have at least a couple of years of military experience under your belt. It'll
Yeah,
help you out in the long run.
I definitely believe it. I would definitely believe that it would help a lot of different stuff. Right now, I know that there at this time when we're doing this recording, I know that the biggest issue that departments have is actually even just getting people to apply right now.
Yeah, nobody wants to work.
No. Well, nobody
That's
wants
it.
to work, but also then you add on the stress of all the stuff about policing, and nobody wants to be.
Yeah, right. Well, that's right. Even the people that are working don't want to work.
Yeah, yeah.
They
Well,
fall back into that Ferguson effect. The
yeah.
Ferguson effect is very alive.
Mm,
You know?
yeah, yeah. How do you feel? How do you feel like with your all your experience and your experience with the recruiting and all that? How do you think that we shift that the mindset? And I'm talking just towards policing now, right now. But how do you feel is the best way to shift that mindset to people wanting to be law enforcement again?
Well, first I have to hear from the people that are running the departments and your city officials that, we want professional law enforcement officers, uh, give them decent pay. You're not to become a millionaire on the job, but give them a decent salary with decent benefits, something that they can actually live on and take care of their families with, and have their back. Don't
Yeah,
keep, throwing them throwing them in the meat grinder because of the woke politicians that are out there today, or the anti-police that are out there today. They should say, listen, that's them, that's not us. Okay.
yeah.
And make sure you keep repeating that same message over and over and over. And hopefully you'll get some qualified people that really want to do the job. And because remember, it only takes one cop to ruin it for everybody else,
Well, that's what we're saying.
and that's very unfortunate because listen, not my fault he did that. I didn't train him that way,
Yeah,
right? Why are you coming down on me?
yeah.
And I used to get that a lot from people we stopped on the road. I had one guy tell me uh, this guy was treated bad by another deputy, and then when I stopped him, just like months later, and that deputy happened to get killed in the line of duty, right? And then
Yeah.
months later, I stopped this guy, and he goes, "I hope you get killed like they killed that guy last month." Right? I go, "Excuse me?" Right? And this is what that guy did had nothing to do with me. All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So why take it out on me? I said, and then we had a few choice words, right?
And hopefully I
Uh,
understood.
yeah. So you hope that you have an administration that doesn't fall to the woke crowd and the woke mob,
Yeah.
and that say, listen, we want you to have the best training we can give you, the best money we can offer you, the best benefits we can offer you, and know that we have your back all the time. If the guys hear that, hopefully they believe it. Maybe they get a good recruitment drive.
Yeah. No, no. So that's why I've had quite a few Chiefs on here, and yeah, the ones that are willing to come on here, they're pretty good, and it's about getting that message out there. I love that you said that, Glenn. To shift the topic a little bit, what was your favorite part of policing? Like, what was the favorite role that you did?
When I saved the lives of some people,
Hmm.
that was
Any
always the
specific,
best.
is there any specifics that like really stand out for you?
Sure. I had a little kid that was autistic that found his way into a lake, and I happened to be close by when I got the call, and they go, he was here like a minute ago, and I see him floating, like maybe not far from shore, maybe like 6 or 8 feet offshore. I just stepped in the water, I grabbed, pulled him out, and did CPR on him till the medics got there, and we saved him.
Wow.
Right? Then I had another guy that he was in a car accident, and he rear-ended somebody else. But when he did it, he went into cardiac arrest, and we dragged him out. Myself and two other deputies were there. We dragged him out of the car. I was doing. I started chest compressions on him. Meanwhile, one of the other guys had an AED device in the car. He brought it, hooked him up. Then I went to the ambu bag for breathing, and after a few minutes, we brought him back to life.
Wow.
Right. So these things always stood out to me. It's like that's like your ultimate thing you can do on the job.
Yeah.
Anybody
Yeah.
can go take a report here, and you do that thousands of times a year, but you
Yeah.
don't get to save a life very often.
Yeah, no, it's in the career, we see, well, it was a study that was done out of New York. Cops see 18 times as much trauma in their first 12 months as
Oh
a
yeah,
civilian will in their entire life.
sure.
And so when you compound all that up over the years, sometimes finding and remembering those good things that you did, those lives that you saved, can
Yeah.
be, hard to find because there's not 18 times as many of them. as,
No, and plus with as with the on the hostage calls, the same thing.
yeah,
You were able to get to into somebody's head to prevent them from hurting themselves. So
yeah,
that in itself is another numerous life saves,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, no, yeah, like save their life or save the life of whoever that is that they're, holding,
Right, sure.
holding hostage. I love that. I love, and these are the kind of stories that I love to hear as well. Because it's why we do the job. Those are the reasons why we do the job.
Right. Yeah.
It's not the rest of it.
Yeah.
Those are the exact
The
like
other it's just all out noise.
yeah, the rest of it's all noise. Yeah, so true. Now I know, Glenn, you had said that you wrote 5 books.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about real quickly what those books are about and how people can find them.
Okay. Well, first of all, they're all on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Kindle and Nook.
Yeah.
The first one is called The Hurt. It's a true crime drama. I was involved with back in the 80s when I was working at a rock and roll club here down in South Florida, where we had a drive-by shooting homicide of one of the bouncers. And the story follows that shooting, what led up to it, the shooting, the aftermath, and the trials, and then all the craziness back in the rock and roll club. That's a nutshell version. The other one was called the Real Story Behind the Hurt and the Rise and Fall of Extremists. And that was one where the club was closed, and then 25 years later, the same owner reopened it. And but this time you find out that he's really not a good guy. He's really a domestic terrorist that lets all these Antifa and Black Lives Matter people work in his clubs, and they go out and they cause havoc, but they're hiding in plain sight. Right.
Wow.
The other one is called Operation 1600. It's a political thriller about a corrupt U.S. president that gets us into a nuclear exchange with Russia. Yeah,
Uh,
right.
okay, we won't dive into that because I don't want to get sensitive.
The other one is called Look a Quarter. That's autobiographical anecdotes about my crazy life from New York through the military, through the policing, through today.
Oh, cool.
And the other one that's going to be coming out soon is called the making of a I can't remember the name. the the making of a monster.
Oh
It's
God.
about a bully little kid that becomes a notorious thrill killer.
Wow. Wow. So you spend a lot of good time writing books. I love it. I love it. Some of them sound really good. So make sure if you're listening or watching, make sure you go out and have a look and see which one draws your attention. Uh, Thanks, Glenn, so much for all the insights, for all your experience, for your years of policing, both in the military and in Florida, and what you're doing now, helping people to drive better. Because yeah,
Yes.
that will never stop. We'll always need people to drive better. Uh,
Yeah.
and thanks for for being here. Is there any last words that you'd like to anything you'd like to add in before I ask you the very final question?
No, Chris, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome, perfect. I appreciate having you on. It was fun, some good laughs, and some
Yes.
good stories. Uh,
Yes.
Last question I have: what would be your top tip to self-happiness?
Probably just stay true to yourself, stay
Mm,
true to your family and your friends. Always have an open dialogue with those who you love and who you cherish.
mm.
Um, get away from it, take a vacation, even if it's just a staycation. Go down the street to a local hotel on the beach and chill out. And just to get away from the daily grind, because we all need to break.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Some great words on how to stay happy after a very long, happy, successful career
Yes.
in law enforcement. Thank you, Glenn, so much again. And for everybody listening and watching, I appreciate you for being here. Make sure that you, again, like I said at the very beginning, take one thing away from today. Just one. Take one of the things away. Maybe it's the positive around how you get to save a life and focus on how you saved lives over your career or how you're going to save lives in your upcoming career. Uh, this will shift and change everything about how you outlook at life and people in general, especially in this difficult but great job. We are always happy to hear from you. Would love to hear from you. In the show notes, you will see my email address, my personal email address, chris@knockingdemoncoaching.com. And you can also go to our website, createfromwhy.com, and find out all sorts of information on how we can help you and how we can work together, either personally or in your department. Till next time, make sure you share, like, subscribe, give it to somebody who you know will resonate with this, and we will talk to you next time. Remember, train hard, test easy, because we're always going to be tested, so we may as well train for it.